Hello, I'm your host Elizabeth Kelly, and a wider world awaits you. Do you know anyone who has autism? A family member, a friend, a neighbor? It has become so prevalent in today's world that most people have seen what living with autism can do to a family. In our first story today, we actually see how autism has brought this family closer together and made them stronger. Meet the Howse family from Livonia, Michigan.
Scott Howse is a runner. Like his father before him and his three brothers, running is something that he seemed born to do. But Scott's story is a bit different. At an early age, Scott was diagnosed with autism.
When Scott was a baby, I didn't really see anything that was really different about him. He was a very, very happy baby. He was just smiling all the time. He did a lot of babbling. He had normal development in terms of his language development. His gross motor skills were not delayed. He loved to be hugged. He always loved to have that closeness. When he first got his 15-month vaccination, he came home that night. He was rather cranky, which we were told that's really not unusual. Then about 2 weeks after that MMR 15-month vaccination, we had a downward spiral that began, and it just continually, it's like a snowball effect, and it just kept on going. And within about a month, month and a half, the language skills were gone. He didn't want to be cuddled or touched anymore.
It was a shock to me when he was little and just changing his diaper that he couldn't seem to be touched without screaming. I had no experience with a baby before, and I had no idea what the cause of that was. I didn't know he had tactile defensiveness and he couldn't stand to be touched. I had no idea of that.
At that point, we just started going to different doctors because we had to know what the problem was. And so we probably went to 3 or 4 different doctors, and all of them were just totally baffled.
Like many parents, Ken and Connie would not stop until they found someone who could help their son. They found that someone at what was then the Detroit Institute for Children. His name was Dr. David Benjamins, and his news wasn't good.
Then he dropped this bombshell on us, and he said that our son had something called autism, which I had never heard of before in my entire life.
It was devastating. And my first question is, what's autism? I had no idea.
And he said that, he would never outgrow it, and he'd probably have to be institutionalized. And some people just go off and they get super, super depressed, and they act like the world has come to an end, and other people start searching out answers. And I think that my husband and I fell into the search out answers category.
Being an engineer by training, I said, well, let's solve the problem. How can we fix it?
Fixing things usually came easy to the Howses, and they didn't like to be told that something wasn't possible. But they soon found out that autism was a different kind of challenge. After countless months and years of trying different strategies, they say it was a sign from God that shed some light on Scott's struggle.
It was on Easter Sunday, and we had taken him to church, and we came home, and we were, doing our thing around the house, and all of a sudden I heard this sound from the other end of the room. Ken looked at me and he says, "Jesus loves me. This I know." That's what he was singing.
The words weren't clear, but you could just tell by hearing him mumble. I could hear the musical notes going through my ears, and I could tell it was a song, not speech.
We both started to cry because Easter Sunday was a time of rebirth, and it was almost like that was his rebirth day.
When your child can't talk and they're already 6 years old and you can hardly understand anything they say, it's very difficult to have that bonding between a parent and a child. And having just him come home on that Easter Sunday and be able to start noticing syllables of music coming out of him, making us realize that maybe we could start to get him to be able through music to articulate. My wife was a violinist, and so she knew what to do.
The singing actually is a pathway for them to begin talking, and that's what we found with Scott, was that that the music therapy just like opened up a whole new world for him. And after he had been doing the music therapy for a few months, then the language began to emerge.
Being able to communicate somewhat with Scott was a positive step forward, but both Connie and Ken knew they had much further to go. Fate brought them to the doorsteps of the Berger School in Garden City, Michigan.
Ken and I went to observe the classroom of Carol Shepard, who was the preschool teacher at Berger, and we were both just blown away by Carol. And we saw her students doing things that were amazing. Her classroom was just amazing. She had all of this wonderful stimuli around her classroom. She had these kids doing things that we wanted Scott to do.
I have to say this program was built out of love and determination by a group of parents who wanted something more for their children, who were failing in general ed classrooms here in Michigan, and they sought out to seek the best for their children and search throughout the United States for a model, and Berger is based on that model that they discovered. What is it that we have to offer at Berger? If there was some type of prescription that we did or idealism that we followed, and you know, I think it came down to we just wanted to be good teachers, the best teachers we could be. I think, Jim, what made us a little more unique is that what we had to learn was to be the best detective and to use maybe more of our senses to view that child more closely, to read that child of what it was that they needed.
With music therapy and the great work that they did at the Berger School, Scott was making some incredible headway. But what might have helped Scott the most was getting involved in long-distance running, a sport his father excelled at the University of Indiana.
We noticed that Scott seemed to have an extreme amount of energy, and he was downstairs in the basement running around the ping pong table over and over and again. It seemed like endlessly. And so I looked at him and I looked at my wife and I said, I want to take him over to the track.
Scott looked like he was born to it. He really did. He was just running around that track at 2.5, and those little legs are just churning.
He liked it and he enjoyed it, and it was a father-son bonding that we could have something in common.
Running became a passion for Scott, and as he got older, opportunities arose for him to get involved with other kids on a local team.
She was named Lucy Van Meter at that time, she was a parent of one of the students, and she decided that she was going to start up a cross-country team.
And people are like, you can't ask Scott, he's autistic. I go, why? Why? He can still run, he can walk.
She gets up in front of everybody and she says, I want to start up this cross-country team. And who's interested in running cross-country? And Scott kind of looked at her. Yeah. He piped up, yeah, I'd like to try that. What is it?
I learned in the process. They taught me. It was just nice. It's nice to see how smart, he was too. I've always been attracted to smart, but a lot of these autistic children are really smart. And I could never not be happy around Scott. I can't say he was ever sad.
High school brought another adventure as Scott joined the track team at Livonia Churchill High School.
He earned a letter as a freshman. He's a very competitive young man. He came here with some great ability, a very wonderful work ethic, and he had a nice 4-year career. Very competitive, and the young men that he ran with really took to him right away.
Scott became a member of the team at Schoolcraft College, and today still trains and competes with the team as an unattached athlete.
He's consistent, he's a hard worker, and because of that, because he tends to always be in shape, he pushes the other runners to make sure that they're staying up with him. Well, the inspiration is there, and they take special pride in being part of the team that Scott is on. So, you know, he certainly is a welcome part. And at the end of each season, they always ask me, is Scott coming back? Is Scott coming back? Because they want to make sure he's there to run with them.
Spend any time with the Howse family, and the first thing you'll notice is how close they are. His 3 younger brothers look up to Scott as a role model.
You know, Scott has a great attitude. He's a very strong man of character. He has a lot of integrity. He's one that always goes the extra mile.
He'll go up to some stranger and he'll start to talk about God and sing gospel music, and he's really not afraid to, you know, anyone of any gender or any race.
I think that his personality he brings the family together, and he just brings everyone. He's that kind of person that just people flock to just because he has such a friendly attitude about life, and it's amazing just to see how friendly he is considering how much he's gone through in the course of his life.
Together, the Howse family have created a website to help tell their story and to help others who are experiencing autism.
Autism Lighthouse is a website that's dedicated to providing natural remedies and support and gluten-free recipes, as well as inspirational poems and stories, and also parenting tips to people who have someone affected by autism. And we started this site because we knew that there were a lot of people that had autism, and we wanted to help parents and people who have autism we want to help them so that they don't have to go through some of the same struggles that we went through.
So the website is our way of trying to help people, give them a multitude of ideas and share that with them.
Scott and his family have certainly been a positive influence on many people through their faith in God, their love of running, and most importantly, their love for each other.
I cannot say enough about the Howse family. What inspiration they have created for everybody. They inspire me, even though I can't run anymore, but they inspire me just thinking about them, because every place I go to, I talk about them.
My family is awesome. God has given me strength. I know. God can be amusing too. Even when I'm embarrassing, God lifts me up, and God gives me strength to even run. God is a character.
There are many good resources available today for families coping with autism. Be sure to add autismlighthouse.com to your list.